two scenes go on forever. And especially the opening in the car adds nothing to the story. Nothing. Even the extended dialogue about talking about the lap dance and everything really adds nothing to the story. It sets up a scene later on, but they take 10 minutes to set up that scene later on.
Now, arguably, you could say that that's Tarantino's style, is that kind of unnecessary dialogue that kind of builds off of character development.
But in the other movies, it does just that. It kind of develops the characters.
Mm-hmm. And so this one, your argument is that it really doesn't.
It really doesn't. Yeah.
Okay.
Like it kind of builds up the characters. They talk about something funny or whatever, but it kind of lets you know who they are. And I don't think Death Proof does that. Another quote that I have is from The Guardian by Peter Bradshaw. It says it's long stretches of bizarrely inconsequential dialogue. So I came prepared on this one. So those two quotes pretty much sum up my main beef with the movie, is all the dialogue. Now it gets into the second part after he kills the first four girls in the car, which, by the way, that scene is brutal and intense, especially because it shows it from kind of each girl's perspective.
Yeah, they replay it.
They replay it, all four times.
I would feel like that's like probably the movie's strong point, as it is mostly dialogue.
Oh God, the leg getting sheared off is
that's the most
crazy because it looks so real, and then it has that bounce and that jiggle when it hits the asphalt.
Yeah.
But when they get to the second part, this scene wasn't in the Grindhouse feature where they're parked out in front of like a convenience store.
Mm-hmm.
That whole thing was cut?
That was not in the Grindhouse feature after the four girls are killed, and there's the discussion with Earl McGraw and his son in the hospital, which, by the way, is a good callback to Planet Terror, because if you just watch Planet Terror...
It's like it's based in the same universe.
Yeah. Earl McGraw and his daughter, the Doctor, is one of the main characters in Planet Terror, so it's a good callback. But after that scene, I believe it picks up with Kurt Russell taking pictures of the four girls as they pick up Zoe Bell at the airport.
So they never do that whole Vogue thing? Where
no, that wasn't in the Grindhouse double feature.
And it probably was runtime issues, to be honest, because that must have been a fucking long watch.
Yeah, it was probably 4.5 hours. If you included this version of Death Proof, I think it was 4 with Planet Terror and Death Proof and the trailers in between.
Okay. I'm sure the runtime for this probably had a big issue, because I believe Grindhouse flopped at the box office.
It did. Part of that was the runtime, because theaters can only run the movie so many times a day, or like so many shows per day. You know, if you have a shorter movie, you can run it 6 or 7 times a day in a 10, 12-hour period.
Oh, well, that sucks then.
Yeah.
And because Grindhouse was like 4 hours, plus you figure a half hour between shows, you basically only could get 3 shows a day out of Grindhouse, and that hurts a film's box office if you have to do that.
I had a quick question for you. Since you saw the theatrical cut, did they have an intermission?
No, after Planet Terror ended, there was like a couple of fake commercials for like getting snacks in the lobby and for
and Machete and Hobo with a Shotgun.
Yeah, and then there was the fake trailers.
The Rob Zombie's Werewolf Woman of the SS, I believe, was one of them.
And Edgar Wright did one called Don't, which is like kind of like play on like Hammer horror films from like the 60s and 70s.
And Thanksgiving from Eli Roth.
Yeah, Eli Roth did Thanksgiving. I think Machete played before Planet Terror. Machete played before Planet Terror, and then the other 4 were sandwiched between the 2.
Oh, okay. See, I never got to see. I think I still haven't seen. I've seen the Machete trailer, and I've seen the Rob Zombie one and the Thanksgiving one. But I don't think I ever saw the Hobo trailer, because I didn't get the opportunity. I was...
Hobo with the Shotgun wasn't part of the original theatrical...
Are you sure?
It was eventually, but just like in certain cities.
Oh, really?
Because I didn't see it out here.
Yeah, because I I know that movie only was made because of so many people being like, I love that trailer so much
Yeah.
because of Grindhouse.
Yeah.
That movie only was made because of that.
Yeah, but it wasn't in all of the prints at Grindhouse.
That's
It
really
was only in certain areas, or maybe even certain prints.
Damn, that sucks. That's weird.
Go on YouTube. I think you can look up all of the trailers from the Grindhouse movie.
Yeah, but jumping back into your bit about it.
So yeah, that whole scene in the beginning at the beginning of the second part of the movie at the convenience store is not in a theatrical release, and it adds nothing to the movie.
Yeah.
Besides the real crazy foot fetish scene where like Kurt Russell comes up and is sniffing like Rosario Dawson's feet, and I think
he
he
does
licks
this thing
them.
where he's like,
Yeah.
or something, and just she thinks that she doesn't ever realize what's happening. Somebody comes out and kind of catches him, and he's like, "Oh, my keys! I dropped my keys," or whatever.
Yeah.
It's funny, and that's in black and white.
It's in black and white. So there's that, and then once they pick up Zoe and they're in the car driving, they have like a 10-minute discussion as to like who's having sex with who, like on the set of this film that they're making, it's an episode of Sex in the City or something.
So
like,
Chris told me that he was he didn't like this movie and that he was going to trash it. So I actually queued up an interview. It's a Conan O'Brien interview about Death Proof with Tarantino on the show.
Okay.
So we'll play that after he's done with his
Trash
bit.
talk.
Whatever.
Okay, I got a few more for you guys.
But he kind of talks about why, like, his relationship with women and how that kind of plays into the film. So I think it'll be a cool kind of refute against what Chris is saying.
Well, I don't hate that aspect of it. I thought that was cool, and like we said, like he's always been really good at writing really strong female characters. Yeah. It was just, compared to Planet Terror, it wasn't nearly as enjoyable. And Planet Terror has two female leads.
Yes.
The Rose McGowan character and Marley Shelton's character, the blonde doctor. But I don't like Death Proof.
Do you think seeing Planet Terror first kind of pulled you away from Death Proof, or if you would have saw it separately, would you have liked it more?
If I saw Death Proof separately, I don't think so, especially since when I watched it last week.
Okay, yeah.
But then again, I still had the contempt for it from
when he saw it.
From the first two times I saw it with the double feature. But yeah, I do think that if Death Proof was first, and Planet Terror was second, you would have left on more of a high note.
Yeah, okay.
And maybe that would have contributed to the box office, a little more success to the box office. I don't know. But in my opinion, if I saw Planet Terror second, I'd have been much more excited walking out of that theater than like really let down as I was when I walked out of Death Proof.
Especially because it's so it's like a batshit crazy film.
Yeah.
You've seen it.
Yeah,
right?
I've seen it, yeah. That movie's fucking weird.
It's nuts.
And also, this isn't in my notes, but I believe, Wesley, you and I talked about this last week. When you watch Planet Terror, they're holed up in I believe in like a bar, like a barbecue, like the guy's barbecue restaurant, and it like says scene missing or reel missing, like, you know, whoever was putting the movie together forgot the third reel of the film. And then when it comes back after it says reel missing, like all hell is breaking loose, and then like the place is on fire, and like zombies have overrun it and everything. And that was a really smart, funny way to kind of skip over any kind of plot holes in the film and just say, we won't explain how all this happened. Just
jump right into it.
Yeah, we're going to jump right into the climax here. And Death Proof does that, at least in the Grindhouse double feature. Death Proof did that where Kurt Russell was going to get the lap dance from Vanessa Ferlito's character.
The DVD that I have, they do the lap dance, and then like all of a sudden, like more than halfway through, like when they're about to end it, then it cuts and it's like real missing. Now that I've went back and watched that scene, so I don't know, is that what you're thinking about, or is it more like they don't show it at all?
They didn't show it at all in the theater. Like, he was going to get the lap dance, and then it said real missing, and like that was it. And it was kind of like, well, it just skipped over the lap dance, but it didn't really give it, like, it didn't really, like, skip over important part of the plot like Planet Terror did. That was, like, really funny how it came back and, like, all hell was breaking loose.
I think that's strange that they would choose that, because that's a strong point. In my opinion, I think that the lap dance is a strong part of the movie, more of an iconic.
Well, especially because they spend so much time building it up with that whole stupid conversation in the bar between the girls at the beginning. And
with
then,
Jungle Julia, telling everybody, hey, you're going to need to come up to my friend Butterfly and tell her this thing. So there's all this, like, weird, like, that's all it's building up to. So the fact that the theatrical cuts that out is just weird. And I feel like it probably hit it hard. Like, maybe that's why people didn't like it. Because I remember... I was still in high school, about to graduate when this came out, and one of my friends that worked, I used to go and pick up my sisters at Roosevelt, and they had, like, this lady or whatever that worked with them. She was like, oh, I went to go see this, and I loved Planet Terror, but I fucking fell asleep halfway through Death Proof because it was so goddamn boring. Yeah. And I had already seen them, but like he was saying, they were released on DVD separately. Yeah, I believe Death Proof came out first, so I watched Death Proof first, and then Planet Terror came out. And like I said, I think that the lap dance is a very iconic piece of that film, and it's really good. The way that it's shot and the way that Vanessa Ferlito, who is super sexy to me, I don't know why. And that's a whole nother discussion. But
episode 19.
Yeah. Yeah, she's really, really good and super underrated. And she does the lap dance to the Coaster song, which is, what's it called? Down in Mexico. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's an amazing song, especially to do that to. So I don't know why they would cut that out.
It was, yeah. And especially because if you saw what Planet Terror did with that, it made no sense to do that scene with Death Proof, to just cut that out. But I'm glad that you brought up the Coaster song, because as I commented on the post that you did last week, the soundtrack is amazing. The soundtrack is probably one of my favorite Tarantino soundtracks. Yeah. And it's so far as I'm concerned, it's really one of the very few redeeming qualities of that film, is the soundtrack to that, because it's like there's a lot of great soul on it.
Yeah, yeah. It's like every track on there is a great song in its own right. And though even just the way that it flows is perfect.
I mentioned the soundtrack was great. I like Kurt Russell. I love Kurt Russell. Yeah. I think just like his work in like Tombstone and like any of the John Carpenter flicks.
Well, I feel like that was why he picked Kurt Russell for this, is because it was like he wanted to bring Snake back in a sense. But going into a personal story, so when this came out, I let my grandparents watch it because they're big movie people, and they actually love Tarantino, and they're on Chris's side where they thought that Death Proof was dog shit as well. And they went out of their way to tell me so, too. They said that they don't know why he would pick Kurt Russell as the villain, because he's not a villain, and you can't really take him seriously as a villain, and that's what took them out of the film. And that they felt like it was very, like, nothing happened, and they didn't know. I think they watched some of the special features, and that, you know how everybody's trying to get you hyped and they're excited, and they're like, why are they so excited? Like, this is kind of like, there's nothing to this movie. It's just kind of bad, or whatever. So
I would agree with them on that. I think Kurt Russell, especially in the John Carpenter movies, makes a good anti-hero. Yes, but I agree with them. I don't really see Kurt Russell as ever being a villain.
Yeah, well, I feel like it's because he spends in so much. He's kind of like Tom Cruise. You can't
typecast it a lot.
Yeah, he can't play a villain because you
know him so much.
You subconsciously associate him with, being a hero. Yeah. Or even in Big Trouble in Little China. Yeah. Like that kind of character, or
Yeah.
whatever that goes in between. But to be like this kind of guy who wallows in depravity or whatever you want to say,
Yeah.
it's just kind of